Gotta say, this is going to be pretty awesome. Hello, YouTube Nation. We're glad you have made it to the arena. I'd be Chase, the handsome man next to me with those funky headphones there that look like they're
Hey,
from
these
what,
are
the 80s? Those
no
from the
way.
80s?
These are grade A studio quality, brother.
That is JT, and this is Broad Street and Beyond, a sports podcast. Get you closer to our local sports scene. Also, of course, we will dive into everything from the city of brotherly love. We'll try to entertain you, not bore you. We also have some surprises along the way. This is the leadoff spot of Broad Street and Beyond. Let's welcome my co-host, Johnny Toscano, or just more simply, we call him JT. Welcome,
Thanks for,
JT.
thanks for having me, brother. I'm really excited to be teaming up with you on this.
Yeah, man, this is
We,
going to
we
be an awesome project.
yeah, we talked about this a year ago. We kind of played around with something, and right around Super Bowl, right around the Super Bowl, right? We did kind of a little a pilot, and we this is going into the Eagles Chiefs Super Bowl, and we had some fun with that, and then it kind of went on the back burner, and now here we are again. We just you and I we started talking again, and we said let's give it a whirl and see where this goes.
The pilot crashed, in other words.
That's a lost. That's a lost tape. Actually,
Yeah.
if you can unearth that somewhere, it might be worth something.
It's on eBay right now. It's at $5 right now.
Might be. I was gonna say about 375, but
Yeah.
with inflation, it may
Zero,
be
zero
fine.
bidders. All right, Johnny T, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do the warm up. So each episode that we do here, I think it's good to get you warmed up, do your stretches, do your exercises before we get into it. 3 questions to you, totally
Okay.
unrelated. Sometimes 2 sports. Sometimes they'll be 2 sports, sometimes they'll be
Okay. Is this
unrelated.
multiple choice?
No, definitely not.
Oh,
I don't do multiple choice. All right, 3 questions. Start things off. Random questions to JT. First one
Okay.
is, what was your favorite sports event you watched over the weekend?
Probably I would say the Eagles game,
Yeah.
the Eagles Buccaneers game, because I was a little I was stewing, I was sulking a little bit late Saturday night after Penn State lost to Oregon, and I needed something to put me in a good mood again. And even though it was a little hairy there in the second half, I would say the Eagles was the best thing that I watched over the weekend.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't Penn State. That's for sure. What did you have for breakfast today, if you had breakfast?
I did not have any breakfast this morning. I actually rarely eat breakfast.
Really?
Yes.
You're a guy that doesn't eat breakfast in the morning.
I kind of do that. I've been sort of dabbling in the past year or two in that intermittent fasting thing that some people have read about.
Yeah.
Where you skip breakfast and you fast all the way till lunch. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
More diet lessons from JT to come. Let's get to know you since it's our first show, man. Tell us your favorite sports food of all time.
Sports food,
Yeah.
wings,
Wings.
wings.
That's a good
Oh
one.
yeah, yeah.
Hot wings? Barbecue wings?
Hot wings.
Hot wings are
Sit
the
down,
best.
watch some football, have some hot wings. It's nothing better in my opinion.
We're going to start off with the launching of the lineup, too. We're going to run down the lineup, tell you what we're going to go over. Show number 1, very special here. The Phillies, of course, in the postseason. Going to dive into that, talk some playoff baseball. The Birds had a big game against the Buccaneers over the weekend. Almost wasn't a big game. Hockey's about to lace up the skates, talk some Flyers, Bears, Capitals. And how about we toss in some college football as well? Penn State's whiteout game didn't go away. Everybody wanted it to against Oregon over the weekend as they dive into, of course, the Big Ten play. How's that sound? Sound like a plan?
Let's do it.
All right, buddy, here we go. Let's get into it. The Phillies have won their second straight consecutive division title. First round bye, we now know the foe, the NLDS. It's going to be the Los Angeles Dodgers. Game number 1, Saturday at the Bank. A bold statement to say that if this team does not win the World Series this year, is it really time to break up the band in Philadelphia?
I think there's going to be some changes. I don't know if they're going to totally blow it up, but you've got the Kyle Schwarber impending free agency. I think Ranger Suarez is a free agent.
Yeah.
There's been some writings on the wall. You kind of get the sense that Nick Castellanos isn't a happy camper right now, and I think if they. I think if they flame out here in the NLDS against the Dodgers, and it's a shame because I think the Phillies have played pretty well in September, but they're running into the Dodgers, and the Dodgers maybe aren't quite as good as they don't appear to be quite the juggernaut that they were last year, but they looked off. They looked like they brushed aside the Reds pretty easily. So it's a tough draw to take on the Dodgers right away in the NLDS. But I mean, if the Phillies have any aspirations of winning the whole thing, they were probably going to have to play the Dodgers anyway at some point. So you gotta beat these good teams if you want to finish out on top. So if they lose, I would say if they flame out kind of in feeble fashion in the National League Division Series, there's definitely going to be some changes. If they go a little further, maybe the NLCS, the World Series, maybe they'll keep some more pieces. But I think either way, I think the team's going to look a little different next year.
I think this is the matchup that everybody was looking forward to in the National League. I mean, it is the two powerhouse teams in the National League. It's the Dodgers, it's the Phillies, the most successful teams the past couple of years in the National League. I mean, what's going to happen in the Padres-Cubs series, we don't know yet. This has been recorded before that series is over. Could the Cubs beat the Padres? And that could be a little bit of an upset on that side of things. But these two teams are ultimately the two teams that probably should be playing the Phillies and Dodgers in the NLCS.
Right, and I think that's what you get in this playoff format when you have a bracket. In hockey and in football, they reseed you going into the second round. So usually you can kind of have a situation where maybe the two best teams end up playing for the right to go to the World Series. This happened a couple of years ago when the Phillies had their run. They're running into the Braves in the NLDS.
Yeah, sure.
But again, I go back to if the Phillies believe that they are a serious championship contender, they got to prove themselves. You can't rely on things just falling your way. You can't rely on the Reds upsetting the Dodgers and then maybe the Cubs upsetting the Padres and you get a favorable match. I don't think you can rely on that kind of thing. And if they can go toe to toe and they can get past the Dodgers, you would think at that point the sky's the limit and how far they can go in the postseason.
I think everybody's hoping for that. The rundown of the NLDS game number 1, Saturday in Philly. Game number 2 is Monday in Philly. Games 3, 4, if necessary, out in LA, Wednesday and Thursday. Saturday, if necessary, hopefully it doesn't get that far. Game number 5 will be in Philadelphia. Phils won the regular season battle against the Dodgers 4-2, taking 2 of 3 back in April, also taking 2 of 3 recently here in September. They put up 26 runs, those 4 wins against L.A. They're going to have to put up some offense, obviously, in these games in the NLDS. Do they have enough to beat L.A.?
Well, I think they do. The only thing, if you kind of dive into like some of the recent matchups, if you look at that series they won in L.A., they really didn't do a whole lot offensively against the Dodgers starters. It's kind of when they got into that bullpen that they kind of did some damage. They were able to score some runs. That being said, I think the Phillies probably more than any other team in the National League, they have the rotation that can match the Dodgers rotation. So even if the Phillies aren't doing much against, Blake Snell or whomever, they have the starting pitching to keep it close. That if they get into that bullpen, maybe they could have a breakthrough. And then it comes down to the back end of the Phillies bullpen. Will they be able to hold up in a tight game? I guess I haven't seen much yet as far as how the Phillies rotation is going to stack up. Are they going to go with a 4-man rotation, a 3-man rotation? You got to figure it would be Sanchez, Ranger Suarez, Jesus Luzardo, and then where does Aaron Nola fit in? I don't know if they've decided that they're going to go by past accolades and Nola's going to be higher up in that rotation, but based on the way the year goes, I would say that, in my opinion, Nola would be a Game 4 type starter.
I don't know. I don't know if Rob Thompson will pull the trigger because he's a good pitcher in the postseason. I mean, you see that with Aaron Nola. He's a solid pitcher in the postseason. This year, during the regular season, he's been about as inconsistent.
No, it might be the worst year of his career that he's had.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of he got off to a bad start, then he was hurt for a while. He came back. He wasn't very good. Coming off the injured list, he's been a little bit better as of late. He's given him some innings. I mean, again, with the Phillies rotation and the potential that they have, I like their chances really against anybody. It's going to be, how are they going to be able to score some runs against the heart of the Dodgers rotation? And again, the Dodgers also have that pedigree from last year, and they've got some players. They've got some big time players, with Ohtani and Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts, Teoscar Hernandez. I mean, it's a pretty potent lineup. I think that's built for the postseason, even though they weren't quite as good in the regular season. I think they are kind of like the Phillies in that both teams have rosters that are built for the playoffs.
And with Wheeler being out for the Phils, it looks like Christopher Sanchez is going to take the ball for game number 1. 13-5 this year, 2.50 ERA. He's probably going to oppose Shohei Ohtani on the mound in game number 1, you would think, because he was scheduled to pitch in game number 3 of the wild card game. He's got an ERA, 2.87 ERA. It'll be his first postseason pitching debut for Shohei Ohtani. Also some stats for you, Johnny T. How about this? Dodgers and Phils have been the best two teams over the past few years since 2023. Dodgers lead all teams, 304 wins. Phils right behind them, 290. It's the 6th all-time postseason meeting between the two teams. Previous 5 coming, of course, in the NLCS. And we all can't forget the Matt Stairs bomb out in L.A. a couple years back. Remember that?
When Stairs hit one deep into the night.
Oh, yeah, deep into the night. That's the way they put it, right?
Yeah, I think the Phillies have won the last 3 postseason meetings against the Dodgers, if I'm not mistaken. I think it would be, if you go back, it would be 1983, 2008, and 2009.
Yep.
All three in the NLCS. The Phillies have won but again, that doesn't really have any bearing on this series because it's completely different rosters. I'm looking forward to it. I think that I sound like a broken record, but if the Phillies have any aspirations about winning it all, why not go toe to toe here with the Dodgers and see how they measure up?
Yeah, go against the best. The other 2 times, 77, 78 were the years. That's when the Dodgers got the best of the Phils. Lately, though, the Phils got the advantage for sure. 2 questions for you, JT. Then we'll move on to something else here. Can Bryce Harper get his mojo back here in the playoffs? Because we've seen him here in the regular season. It's like I told you a couple weeks back. When Bryce Harper comes to the plate, I no longer get excited to see Bryce Harper at the plate. How about the guys they got at the trade deadline? Of course, the closer, Duran and Harrison Bader. Of course, they added Bueller to the rotation as well. Can those guys help them in the postseason? How much will they help them? And can our man Bryce Harper get his mojo back here in the playoffs?
Can Bryce Harper? Yes. Will he? I don't think so. I'm just being honest. I think Bryce Harper. I don't think he's 100% healthy. That's just me speculating. I haven't. It just seems like he's been playing kind of banged up. I think he's had that elbow issue that he's been playing through. I think it's something that he can play through. I think he can get some hits here and there, but in terms of being the guy that you're relying on to kind of strike fear in the opposition, I think Kyle Schwarber has taken over that role for the Phillies. I still think Bryce Harper can be a solid contributor, but I don't know that we're going to see the Bryce Harper that we saw in the 2022 and 2023 postseasons. I just don't think he's 100%. As far as the trade deadline pickups, I think it's worked out pretty well. Harrison Bader, I think, has been a nice injection of energy into that lineup. He took over in the leadoff spot when Trey Turner went down, and I think he did really well. I think he has a swagger about him. He plays a great center field. He steals bases. I think he's a real lift for that team. It'll be interesting to see now that Trey Turner's back, what that lineup looks like if Trey goes back into the leadoff spot, and then where does Harrison Bader then kind of slide in? I really liked Bader in that leadoff spot, and I think Turner is a good enough hitter that you can kind of put him in other spots in the lineup. But I'm pretty sure that Rob Thompson's going to put Trey Turner back into the leadoff spot. Duran's been terrific. He looked absolutely unhittable. His first couple outings, a couple of times now, he's been a little shaky here and there, but I think you got to feel better about that spot in the bullpen, way better than before the trade deadline. Walker Bueller, I think you got to pick your spots with him. I think he could be good in maybe that stretch relief role. And don't forget about David Robertson. He's kind of
Yeah, yeah.
a
He
he's done a
stepped it up.
pretty good job. Again, I think you have to be careful how much you use him, but he doesn't throw very hard, so he's a guy that they're probably not afraid to use in back to back games. Whereas some of the other guys that throw a little harder, I guess you got to watch with how they manage pitchers today. So I think overall, I think these trade deadline pickups certainly have worked out a lot better than the ones last year. I think last year it was Austin Hayes.
Yeah.
That didn't really work out because he
That
had
didn't pan out too well.
some injury and some health problems. But
Yeah.
but overall, I think those guys are going to be huge for them in this series coming up.
Out of the four, who do you think is going to have the biggest impact in the playoffs?
I think Duran because I really think that the Phillies are again. I think we've seen this the whole year. They're a really streaky lineup, so I think they're going to have to, and especially with the kind of starting pitching that the Dodgers have, I think they're going to have to scratch out some wins. They're going to have to carry some 1-run leads into the late innings, and I feel like Duran is going to have to be that guy that comes in, and he's going to have to lock it down. And there's going to be games where it could be 2-1, 3-2. You're not going to always have that luxury of coming in with a 2 or 3 run lead, and and have a run to play with when you're trying to get the save.
Yeah, we'll see how much time Kirkeren gets in that bullpen, too. He had his struggles here at the end of the season, but see what he can do in that bullpen. And obviously, we need your prediction, JT. We can't let you go here before we move on to the football season without a prediction from JT. Where the Phil's going to fall here in the postseason? They going to make it all the way?
Well, I mean, we're this is Broad Street and beyond. We're straight up homers.
Don't be
right?
biased. Don't be
Come on,
biased.
I'm gonna say Phillies in 5 over the Dodgers.
Okay.
And they're gonna win the NLCS in 6 games against either the Cubs or the Padres. And then they're gonna be well, let's stop right there. I'm gonna stop short of.
He's backtracking.
I'm gonna say they're gonna make it to the World Series, and then I want to see who they play.
I would say I'd have to agree with you. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to have the firepower that they may get to the World Series, but I don't think they're going to knock off any of those teams that are still left in the American League on that side of things once they get into, if they make it to the World Series.
Aren't you a wet blanket?
I'm an honest fan, JT. That's all I can give you. I'm just an honest fan.
I'm trying to be honest too. I'll be more honest with some other topics.
Nice. All right, JT, let's switch gears here to the National Football League. Eagles off to a great start. Big game against the Buccaneers over the weekend. Almost lost it at the end. Steelers were at home against the Vikings. Ravens off to a little bit of a sluggish start as they took on the Chiefs, got beat there. Start off with the Birds. They took on the Buccaneers down in the hot Tampa sun. Real feel was right around 100 degrees down there for the game. They struggled last year against Tampa Bay. Both teams 3-0 coming in. Eagles stormed out to the 24-6 lead. Heading into halftime, Tampa Bay, Baker Mayfield came storming back, of course, to make it a 31-23 game. 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Held the Buccaneers on the final drive to win 31-23. Birds are 4-0 among 2 teams in the National Football League that are now 4-0. They have a young secondary this year after Slay left, a couple other guys that left in that secondary. It showed in the second half. What do you think of the Birds early on here after the 4 wins that they've had already?
Well, it's kind of interesting. They're 4-0. They've been outgained by their opponent in all 4 games. They have done a lot of good things, but they've done some things that have been kind of perplexing. I don't know what was going on in that second half of the Tampa Bay game on Sunday. My guess is maybe the heat started to get to them. They kind of looked gassed. I think what they were trying to do is they had that, what was it, 24-6 lead at the half, and I think they thought there was the perfect time to try to get that run game going, but for whatever reason, the run game just hasn't been there. I don't know if it's execution. I've read some things about the interior of the line there with Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson and Tyler Steen are not playing as well together so far in the early going. It just looks like it's not there. Like the holes aren't there. and Barkley isn't hitting the holes that are there for a short time, and I think they are so determined to get that run game going that it's just, and then I don't know, they just kind of fell apart there offensively in the second half, and then Baker Mayfield's one of those momentum quarterbacks. He gets a couple of things go his way, and then all of a sudden he just kind of it feeds off of itself. He can improvise. He'll hang in there. He'll make the tough throws. He gets rid of the ball quickly, so he can be. He's a tough out. The Eagles did. I mean, they did just enough in that second half. And it was weird because when I'm watching that game, I kind of felt like that the Eagles had the Eagles were the better team. They had better
Certainly.
players.
Yeah.
But it wasn't playing out like that in the second half. Thankfully, they did just enough. They got that turnover that led to the touchdown and put them up 31-13. And then of course the defense stepped up. Jahad Campbell had that big interception in the end zone. So that's twice now on the road this year where the game is sort of hung in the balance. This happened against the Chiefs, and that's when they got the tip pass in the air by Travis Kelce that was intercepted in the end zone, and then you had Campbell intercepting Baker Mayfield in the end zone. So it's again, I think they're fine. I think they definitely have some things to clean up. And of course now you've got the situation where obviously AJ Brown's not very happy with how things are going for him. At some point you wonder if Saquon Barkley is going to get frustrated, although he seems to have a more level-headed attitude about not getting off to the kind of start that he did last year. So we'll see. We'll see. They're playing a good defense coming up this Sunday in the Broncos.
Denver. Yeah, a lot of the offense, too, has been circulating around Jalen Hurts this year with his feet, with his arm. Yeah. He's been passing very well. He's been running the ball. I mean, Saquon has not even broke a run of 20 yards, hasn't even come close to 100 yards in any game. Like you mentioned, A.J. Brown. To me, A.J. Brown is one of the biggest prima donnas in all of football. I mean, you're getting paid, the team's winning, and you're complaining about not getting the football.
Is he complaining? We're not really sure what he's saying. He doesn't really come out and say it. He just sort of puts out these cryptic tweets, and we're kind of left to read between the lines. I mean, I will say, I think he can be a little bit of he can be a strange bird, but no. I wouldn't go so far as to say he's disruptive. He can get a little animated on the sideline, but it doesn't seem like he's being disruptive in the locker room. He claims now, he came out, I think it was on Wednesday, and said that the tweet wasn't directed at anybody. Wasn't directed at Jalen Hurts. Of
course it wasn't, JT. Of course it wasn't.
And it wasn't directed at anybody in the organization. Right. But I don't know. To me, and I had a friend of mine text me and said it looked like a proof of life video. His statement that he read off.
That's pretty good. As long as he doesn't start doing push-ups like a certain other former Eagle or wide receiver did, and the cameras were rolling, T.O., I think we'll be all right.
If he doesn't, if he's not doing, as long as he's not doing sit-ups in his driveway and having his agent lead a press conference in the driveway of his home, I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah, and leave that social media go, man. Just if you're thinking about it, don't put it into the computer or your phone. Just let it go. Let it go. Let it drift.
It makes for great content to talk about.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. So the Eagles take on Denver this weekend, who blew out the Cincinnati Bengals Monday Night Football. Short week for Denver, though, JT, as they head to Philadelphia for this difficult game. After Denver, Eagles got the Giants Week 6 NFC East foe, Week 7 versus Minnesota, Week 8 again against the Giants. Then they play the Packers, Lions, Cowboys, Bears, Chargers, Raiders, Commanders, Bills, and Commanders again. I mean, how realistic is it for the Philadelphia Eagles to keep going at the rate they're going and actually finish the season with, say, 1 or 2 losses?
I think that's gonna level out. I mean, my personal opinion is I thought that I could see the Eagles at when it's all said and done, maybe in that 11 to 12 win range, leaning more towards 12. I do think, I'm really intrigued to see what happens this Sunday against Denver. Again, Denver's a really good defense,
Yeah.
and I want to see how the Eagles respond. The offense has taken a lot of criticism here over the past couple of weeks. You know, they do a lot of good things. They scramble back and they had a great second half against the Rams. They had a great first half against the Buccaneers. But it's a complete Jekyll and Hyde. I mean, for as good as they were in the second half against the Rams, they were just as awful in the first half. And again, last week, as sharp as they looked and as creative as they looked in the first half against the Bucs, they were equally as bad in the second half against the Bucs. So, I want to see what they do offensively. Usually it seems like the pattern goes when there's some AJ Brown news, some maybe drama, for lack of a better term. He seems to come back the next week, and has a really good game.
He sets the playlist the next week.
Yeah, he does, and
he's got the game plan.
So I think if they have a good showing and they beat the Broncos, I mean, I definitely think they could win both games against the Giants. I mean, it's not inconceivable for them to go into that bye with only one loss, and then they've got the bye, and then they come out of the bye and play the Packers, and that's when the schedule really starts to tighten up. You got the Packers in the second half. They've got the Bills in the second half. They've got a game against the Chargers. The Chargers are look like they're going to be a pretty good team this year. With loss aside from last Sunday, they lost to the Giants, but I still think that the Chargers are going to be a good team. So, there's a lot of pitfalls in this schedule coming up later on in the year, especially after the bye.
Let's talk about some other local teams here real quick, too. The Steelers off to a pretty good start, 3-1. They got a new quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, doing pretty well here to start things off. Meantime, down south in Maryland, not so good for the Baltimore Ravens right now, off to a 1-3 start. Of course, not a good game at all against the Kansas City Chiefs there. Talk about the Steelers, talk about the Ravens. What do you see here coming up for them? Steelers got a bye this weekend. Up next for them is going to be Cleveland in week 6. Just talk about those two teams and kind of going different directions here.
I don't know. What do you think of the Steelers? They're kind of they're a funny. I mean, Rodgers is playing pretty well. They got DK Metcalf. They've won some games. They haven't looked great. They haven't looked great doing it. They don't run the ball very well. Now they did against the Vikings with Kenneth Gainwell and
2 touchdowns. Yep.
Taylor Warren or Tyler Warren, sorry, and Taylor Warren. Or wait.
Yeah, Tyler Warren's in Indianapolis.
Who am I trying to think of?
Taylor Warren, I think.
I was right. Okay, I was right the
I think
first
it's Taylor
time.
Warren.
Okay. So I think
the Steelers fans will chime in. They'll call you. Don't worry.
Oh yeah, they'll let me know. They already think I hate the Steelers anyway, and I do. But I think the Steelers they're definitely better than they were last year. Rodgers is playing well. I think Rodgers is definitely an upgrade over what they got last year out of Russell Wilson. Again, I like the DK Metcalf pickup. I think they have a real chance to make the playoffs. I really do. I don't know if I buy. What are they, 3-1 right now? I don't know that I buy that they're going to win the division. But that being said, if the Ravens continue to kind of stumble out of the blocks, who else is going to take it from the Ravens in that division? It's certainly not going to be the Bengals, and it's not going to be the Browns. So, maybe why not the Steelers? But I still feel like the Ravens will get it figured out eventually. And I think when it's all said and done that they'll end up winning that division. But again, I don't think it's far-fetched to see the Steelers be right in the mix for that wild card spot.
Yeah, not sure what's going to happen with the Ravens. Of course, Lamar Jackson left the game with a hamstring injury. Is he going to play this weekend? I have no idea, but he went down, of course, last week, exited the game early with a hamstring injury. Every single year you hear, and you heard it with the announcers this past weekend with the Ravens, every year they're this ungodly team that's going to make it to the Super Bowl. it
Yeah.
doesn't happen. Is this going to be the year for the Baltimore Ravens that they finally get over that hump and make it?
Well, I mean, coming into the year, I thought they were definitely. It was between them and the Bills in the AFC. You know, they lost. You know, they've had a tough start to the season. They had that game against Buffalo. They played pretty well. They had that tough loss to the Lions. Now the Chiefs game, I think that was a little disappointing. But again, you know, the injuries are starting to rack up for them as well. Not only Lamar Jackson, but on defense, I guess Kyle Hamilton, who is now not practicing this week. So, you know, he's kind of the one of the heart and souls of their defense. So if he doesn't play, you know, they've already got a lot of issues defensively. They've given up a lot of points. So if they, you know, if Lamar Jackson doesn't play, now that being said, I think they are playing the Texans this week,
Yep.
so maybe they don't really need Lamar to play. Um, you know, we still don't know is Lamar how injured is Lamar Jackson, and were they just being overly cautious last week?
Just
You
taking
know,
him
that
out.
game
Yep.
that game looked out of hand, and that they didn't have it, and then he was a little banged up, and they just said, well, we're not going to take a chance. But yeah, as good as I think the Ravens can be, you know, you start you're 2-4, 2-5. You start at some point it becomes too big of a hole to dig yourself out of.
Your opinion, best team through week number 4 is the Buffalo Bills? Is it the Eagles? The 49ers lost. They're now 3-1. Colts, they were rolling. They were undefeated. They just lost, of course, to the Rams. Who's the best team in the NFL right now through week 4?
The NFL, or are we going by conference?
Nope, we're going NFL.
The NFL, I would say best overall team right now. I would probably give it to Buffalo.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the I think the Eagles are right there. Actually, you know, even though the Eagles beat the Rams, I still think the Rams rank really high. I
Yeah.
might even put I might even put the Rams number 3. And it's funny, after 2 weeks, I would have said hands down the Green Bay Packers, and Green Bay is certainly in that upper echelon as well. But you know, they've had 2 road games this year, and one was a loss to the Cleveland Browns, and then that. I don't know if you watched any of that game on Sunday against the Cowboys. What a wacky game that was.
Yeah,
It
it
was
was.
a bizarre
To end
game,
in a tie. Yeah.
a 40-40 tie. Uh, Especially the way that started out, it looked like the Green Bay was going to just dominate that game, and then it just kind of got really screwy. But so I think maybe Green Bay has lost a little of its luster. But if you're asking me right now who I think is number 1 overall in the NFL right now, I have to say Buffalo.
Going with Buffalo. It's a good choice. I mean, Buffalo and the Rams look good. Eagles switching gears, hockey season. That's about to kick off next week as well. Of course, we got the AHL season right around the corner with the Hershey Bears. NHL season kicks off October the 7th. Flyers, not a good year last year, 8th in the Metropolitan Division. Only made the playoffs here twice in the last 8 seasons. Early exits, not going any further than the second round since the 2011-2012 season. They got a young team, a lot of talent. Is this the season the Flyers turn it around?
Turn it around how?
Have a winning season. More wins than losses. How about we just
More
start
wins than
there?
losses. Well, you just have a bunch of those shootout losses, and you do what you do. You have a bunch of close games, and you just throw them over in that right
Yeah.
column, right, and
Put
then
them in the corner.
it inflates your record. I think the Flyers. I think the Flyers will be a little bit better. I'm still not sure they're a playoff team, to be honest. I think
Yeah.
I think they're headed in the right direction. I like that they got Trevor Zegras. I think he's got a ton of upside, and I'm excited to see him and Michkov play together on that first line. But they still don't have, you look at the really good teams in the NHL, and they have that top end talent that, especially like a top end sniper at that center one position, the 1C they like to call it. I just don't think they have it yet. The Flyers' problem also is they've had a lot of dead cap money that they've had to clear out of there from some of the bad contracts that they've had from previous regimes. So they're starting to clear out some of that cap room. the problem with that is I don't know, when it comes time that the Flyers have a lot of money to spend and they've got some of these young players developing at the same time. I don't know that how much it's going to matter. You keep talking about. There's a lot of talk about this big free agent class in 2026 about Connor McDavid, but I don't know if you saw the other day. There was a lot of talk about one of the players in that 2026 free agent class was Kirill Kaprizov from the Minnesota Wild.
Oh wow, okay,
yeah, Kirill the Thrill. Well, he just
Oh, yeah.
signed a massive 8-year extension for like 16 million per. It's like I think it's like the largest contract in NHL history, and I never, you don't with the cap going up every year. I just don't know how many of these guys you're going to see get to free agency, and so obviously the one that everybody's talking about next year is Connor McDavid. And
Sure.
Connor McDavid is due to be a free agent next year. If I had to guess, I would say he's probably going to end up doing what Kaprizov did and just sign this mega new contract with.
He ain't
with
coming
the
to
Edmonton
Philadelphia.
Oilers. Right, and I think that's the pipe
Coming to
dream that
Philadelphia.
everybody's thinking about. Get him out of Edmonton, get him into a big market team, and he's going to want to be in a big market team. But I just don't know. I just don't know that it's going to matter how much cap room the Flyers have. I think they're going to have to continue. I think they're going to need maybe one more year of drafting pretty high to get another shot at some top end talent. That being said, I think they can flirt with maybe that one of those last playoff spots, one of those 2 wild card spots, but they're headed in the right direction. But I just don't think they're there yet.
Might be able to get Gritty to play for him here at some point during the season if it goes a little south. Travis Konechny, they got a couple.
How's Gritty on the power play?
Yeah, there you go.
And how is he? In the
I'd love to
bumper
see
spot?
Gritty on the power play. Travis Konechny, Sean Couturier, Ryan Ellis, all veterans that are there too. How much overall are they going to help this Flyers team this year?
Well, Konechny, I think is a big part of what they're trying to do. I don't know that I would have given him the extension that they gave him, but I think he's going to be one of their main scorers. Couturier at this point, there's a lot of wear and tear on his body. I still think he could be a pretty good contributor. You mentioned Ryan Ellis. Ryan Ellis hasn't played for them for I think he's played like 3 games. He's been injured for 3 seasons. They're basically just paying him. They're trying to ride out that contract. I think they'll end up they might put him on long-term injury reserve. It would be kind of nice if he would retire and then they would just be free of that
Contract.
That contract. But he's still getting paid, so he probably doesn't have any incentive to want to give it up. So I think they're paying him this year and next year. So they've got 2 more years of this contract just kind of sitting there. Taking up the cap room. Now, again, like I said, they can put him on LTIR and they can get a little bit of cap relief during the season. They haven't done that in the past. I don't know if they'll do that this year. But Couturier, as far as being like one of their go-to guys, I don't think he's that type of guy anymore. I think he can be a contributor. I think they just got to be careful how many minutes they play him. Anymore. I just don't think he's the type of guy that can give them the top line minutes anymore. So we'll see. Again, I think they're going to be a little bit better. We'll see. Hopefully, Tocchet will give them a nice injection of life because I think towards the end of last year, I think they were starting to tune out Tortorella.
You think?
I think so, definitely.
Yeah, big time. Yeah. Let's see. Hopefully the Flyers can actually make it into at least the playoffs this season. The Washington Capitals, on the other hand, tremendous year last season. Of course, Spencer Carberry, former Hershey Bear coach, winning the Jack Adams Award. Coach of the Year. What a season. First in the Metropolitan Division, 51, 22 and 9, 111 points. Third most points in the NHL. Of course, behind the Jets and the Golden Knights, Ovechkin's record-breaking season last year. Ousted, though, in the second round of the Stanley Cup. There was certainly a brighter future for the Washington Capitals after the way they finished the regular season, but ousted in the playoffs there. Nobody saw coming at the hands of the Carolina Hurricanes. What do you expect this season from the Capitals?
I think they'll be right there in the mix again. They, honestly, I think in my opinion, I think the Caps overachieved a little bit in the regular season last year. I was surprised at how high they finished. But that being said, Spencer Carberry is a really good coach.
Yeah.
I know they really liked him when he was in Hershey, and you could just tell that they really didn't want to see him go, but he had a great opportunity to take an assistant coaching job in the NHL. But you can see when they moved on from when they had an opening, and he was available. That's the guy that they wanted. I think the players really respond well to him. He's a good young coach. I think he's really energetic, and again, I just think the players really like him, and they really want to play for him. And I think that kind of played into their free agent pickups last year weren't, I would say, like knock your socks off type pickups, but they were all guys that bought into what he was preaching. And they had a really good regular season. I just don't know that they got a little banged up there. Remind me, who was the defenseman that they lost? Was it Ferrari that they lost early in the postseason or going into the playoffs? That really hurt them because I think he's a real presence, a real anchor for them on the back end. But so I think they kind of ran out of juice there towards the end of the season, but they're definitely going to be right there in the playoff mix. I don't know that they're going to win the division, but then again, who knows in that division? I mean, you got the Rangers, not quite sure what they have. I think Carolina. I think they're always going to be there. They're always tough. Again, the Flyers aren't there. Columbus. It's the Devils. How do they kind of bounce back this year? I'm really kind of interested to see how the Metro shakes out because I really think the more of the higher end talented teams reside in the Atlantic Division.
Yeah, one of those pickups for the Capitals last season, former netminder for the Golden Knights, Logan Thompson. He was an absolute stud for the Washington Capitals last season.
And that's the other thing. They got really good goaltending last year. LT was fantastic.
Lindgren came in. He did a fine job, too, with them last season.
Yeah, I think they got – and I don't know that people were expecting the goaltending to be as strong as it was, but they were really good. I will say this as a Flyers fan. I would I would rather have the Caps goaltending situation than the Flyers goaltending situation, hands down.
Certainly, yeah. Switching gears to the AHL, to the team right up the road here, the Chocolate and White. Hershey Bears going to open up the 2025-2026 season home against the Syracuse Crunch. Giants Center. You can catch all the action, of course, Froggy Valley 100.1. All season long. Disappointing season last year for the Chocolate and White by meaning they didn't win the Calder Cup. That's always expected in Hershey. Still a successful season. They won the Atlantic Division record of 44-20-7. Bears in the Calder Cup playoffs beat the Phantoms in the semis. Lost to the Checkers in the division finals after coming off the back-to-back Calder Cup champions. The team is going to look a little different this season. A lot of players have left, exited. They got a new coach this season. Todd Nelson moved on. What are we seeing from the Bears this season? There's a lot of hype behind it with all the players they lost. A lot of fan favorites in Scarbosa, Vecchione. Dylan McElrath is up with, of course, the NHL club. A lot of guys they lost that have been in Hershey for quite a long time. How do the Bears move on this season?
Well, I think it's going to be a different look. Obviously, I think they're going to be a lot younger. And maybe that's a good thing. I think I think it was probably time to move on from some of those guys. I haven't really delved too deep into what their roster is going to look like. I know. Well, I mean, I would say you're pretty connected. You probably hone in a little deeper than I do. What are your impressions of what you've seen and kind of like what their roster makap looks like?
They lost a lot of good guys. I mean, they lost the Vecchiones, they lost the Scarbosa, they lost Jake Massey, who was there for a long time. Chase Prisky was there. But they also lost Hunter Shepard, who was their top netminder. Obviously, the Capitals had zero faith in Hunter Shepard and being called up and being a full-time goalie in the NHL. Alex Limoges, former Penn Stater, he went overseas to play as well. Another up-and-coming rising star in not only the AHL, I think in the NHL at some point in time, you're going to see Alex Limoges donning some sort of an NHL sweater at some point. Also, Pierre Dubé, he was another favorite. I don't know what to think. I mean, you got the new coach in there. He's had a lot of time with the Chicago Blackhawks organization. Can he turn it around in Hershey? Ultimately, it's a developmental league. We all know that, the AHL.
Right, and I think we're going to see more of that this year. I mean, I'll be honest. You right now, you just rattled off a bunch of names that I heard a lot, that I heard called a lot in games last year. So, I mean, it's going to be a completely different look. I'm trying to remember it. So who is back this year?
Back this year, there's not many. There's really not that many on their roster, and that's even if they make the roster. A lot of those guys that are up with the Capitals, the younger guys, they could be sent back down. McElrath, who knows what's going to – he hardly played for the Capitals last season.
Right.
Will they send him back down? A lot of those guys that are up – Ethan Frank, will they send him back down to the AHL as well? So there's a lot of ifs with the Hershey Bears upcoming season. You got, like I said, the new head coach, Derek King. He's got zero connection to the Hershey franchise at all. Most of his seasons were spent with the Chicago Blackhawks organization. He was with Rockford in the AHL, I believe, for 9 seasons with them. So he's coming into a team that is very much a tradition like no other in the AHL of the Hershey Bears, and not really knowing what he's getting himself into once he gets into that first game on October the 11th here.
Well, I will say, though, I've always been impressed, I would say, at least in the last several seasons. I do think the Caps as an organization does a really good job at their player development. They seem to draft pretty well, but I also think they develop as good as anybody in the league as far as getting some of these guys ready to play at the NHL level. Again, I think they have really good scouts. So again, maybe this year, I don't know if the expectations maybe should be quite as high this year, but again, until we see them out on the ice, it's probably going to take about a good month till we kind of see what they look like. You know what I mean? Right. How everybody sort of gels together, but. Again, I think the organization as a whole does a pretty good job at developing young talent. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't know. I think it might be a little much, in my opinion, to expect them to. You can't make those deep runs, especially when you're a team in a developmental league, to make those deep runs every single year. And, and some of those guys too. Have played a lot of hockey, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they've gone deep into the postseason a couple years in a row, and I think that catches up with you after a while.
Yeah, you need that camaraderie when it comes to the AHL, and the Bears certainly had that for a number of different years. They got that new boss in there. It's going to be hard to replace Todd Nelson as well, who took the job with now the Pittsburgh Penguins as an assistant. 3 seasons with Hershey, 141 wins he had, 2 Calder Cup championships. King, he's got a lot of experience. He brings the Hershey. We'll see how he pans out here as the Hershey Bears kick off their 2025-2026 season here in a couple of days. Switching gears to our final thought here. We all lived it on this past Saturday night. The whiteout game, Penn State versus Oregon. We had all the hopes. We had all the dreams of them beating Oregon. And it was to be of naught. Once again, in the big game for James Franklin, Drew Aller, the rest of the team. Your thoughts on that game against the Oregon Ducks this past Saturday at Happy Valley?
Well, I mean, I don't know. Where do I start with this? So, so overall, it turned out to be an exciting game. It went, sure. Penn State came back in the fourth quarter. They looked like they had nothing going. They came back. They tied it up. They got it into overtime. They scored first, but I mean, like, come on, where was that in the first half? I mean, there was
3.5 quarters.
Yeah, I was talking to. I'm in a 3-way text with 2 good buddies of mine who are big Penn State fans. They're also Eagles fans. Actually, so if they're listening, shout out to John and Ryan. They're 2 of my closest friends. I love him dearly, and we love to commiserate about Penn State, especially during the game.
Yeah,
But
and JT
well,
loves group texts and group texts.
I
Big
like
fan
I
of.
like that I like that group text. Others not so much. But we'll leave you read between the lines on that one. But I, you know, I think what this really comes down to, I don't know how, have you watched a lot of Penn State? Have you watched
Oh yeah,
just about every
watched
game?
all 4 games. Yep.
So I think the thing that jumps out to me is the run game just isn't there so
No.
far this year, and I don't know what's going on. I just Singleton doesn't look as good as he did last year. Katron Allen is still really good. The offensive line I think was largely intact coming back from last year.
Yep.
They're not playing as well, and they really got dominated up front by Oregon. Oregon's offensive line did a terrific job in that game, and so did their defensive line in terms of shutting down Penn State's run game. So start with, in my opinion, start with that. The fact that Penn State isn't running the ball like they did last year, it's bogging everything down that they're trying to do offensively, and therefore they're so adamant on getting that run game going that they're just they're coming up. There's so many empty possessions and empty downs. Like first down they're getting nothing, or they're getting a good maybe a good gain on first down, and then it's like nothing on second down. So it's like you're seeing a lot of like 1st and 10, get a gain of 4, so it's 2nd and 6, and then nothing on second down, and it just seems like no matter what they do, they're always in some kind of 3rd and long situation. And finally, out of desperation, they got a little creative with the play calling in that 4th quarter and got back into it. And I think because the run game isn't going as well, I think Drew Aller just isn't quite himself. Again, no. Another, and that's now, I really like Drew Aller, but that's now twice in big games in the last 2 years, an absolutely back-breaking interception. I mean, you go back to last year in the Orange Bowl against Notre Dame in the playoff semifinal, that interception that helped set up the game-winning field goal by Notre Dame, and then he throws that awful interception in overtime, in double overtime on Saturday against Oregon.
And he's throwing to triple coverage. I mean, there was 3 guys within 6-7 feet of the receiver there.
It was a really, really tight window. I think he thought that he could float it over one of those guys and kind of lay it in to Reynolds there, the tight end. But I mean, that was a real. He says that's what he was trying to do, but maybe I don't know. Maybe he didn't see one of those guys, but even so, that was a real thread the needle, type situation. I don't know. I really think it comes down to the offensive line. As if they're going to continue to struggle, I think offensively Penn State's going to continue to struggle. And I think it was kind of a real disappointment, I think, amongst the fans because, you had that whiteout. Everybody kind of, I think, was talking themselves into, well, maybe they were holding back a little bit against some of those inferior opponents. And then they had the bye week. And then it was like, okay, well, now they have the bye week. And now we're really going to see what this offense
real Penn
could do.
State team come out, yeah.
Yeah, and it just wasn't there.
Didn't happen.
It really hasn't been there. And I think that's what makes this loss so disappointing. And of course you got Ohio State coming up here eventually, and I don't know that a lot of people are talking about it yet, but they sure will. November the 8th, they got Indiana at home, and I think Indiana could be a real problem. That is not a gimme game by any stretch. So now, I don't want to be a doom and gloom guy with Penn State, but you're looking at maybe now potentially 3 losses. What's the discourse going to be like if this Penn State team, who was really hyped up at the beginning of the year, they brought a lot of people back. They were kind of built to contend for the Big Ten and contend for the national championship. And I mean, man, what's it going to be like if they have 3 losses? But I don't want to get ahead of myself here. Let's see what they do.
The offense up there in Happy Valley is they're sputtering. They really are. I mean, it looks like each game, the offensive coordinator, who is it, Kotelnicki up there? He looks like each game It almost looks like he's just putting the game plan as they go during the game, and he never planned before. I mean, they get into the first half. They've been sluggish in every single first half of each game through the first 4 games. They come out in the second half like bandits, is what they did against Oregon again, and pick up the pace. I mean, I don't know if the team's not ready to play right off the start when they come to those games, but it just doesn't look like something is really, like you said, in sync in that offense here.
Well, I think it's pretty. I think it's the same offense that he ran last year. I think it just comes back down to the fact that the offensive line isn't executing as well, and therefore the run game has sputtered. They were able to run. They were able to establish the run way better last year, and then that opened things up that they could use Tyler Warren in a couple of different, in different ways last year. They were able to. Then use Singleton and Allen as receivers coming out of the backfield. Now, by all metrics, they have a much better wide receiver core this year with the 3 transfers that they got in with Devontae Ross and Trevor Pena. But I don't know if they're going to have to if they're going to continue to struggle with the run, they're going to have to come up with a different approach here as the season goes on.
Yeah, and you just talked about the Indiana game, November the 8th. They play Ohio State out in Columbus, November the 1st, but they also got to play Iowa on the 18th.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
At Iowa. They always play Iowa tough each and every single, especially when it's at Iowa.
Yeah.
And I don't think by any stretch of the imagination, this game, this Saturday against UCLA, is going to be a cupcake game for Penn State.
We'll see. You might be right about that. I mean, Penn State hasn't blown the doors off of anyone this year. I mean, they haven't overly impressed us. UCLA is not a very good team, but again, there's always the factor of traveling all the way out west. Yep. They seemed to handle it okay last year when they were out when they played at Southern Cal. We'll see, but yeah, that's a good point about Iowa. That even when they've had really good teams and teams that I think were way better than Iowa. Whenever they go out to Iowa, it's always a little bit of a slog. Yeah. That's kind of the style that Iowa plays, especially on their home field. So, yeah, they're probably going to have to find a way to grind out that game as well. So we'll see. First things first, we'll see how they respond coming up Saturday afternoon against UCLA. Hopefully they had a good week of practice and that they were able to clean things up.
Let's hope Big Game James don't strike again.
Big Game James!
JT, give me your prediction. Last thing here. Will the Penn State Nittany Lions make the college football playoff this year?
No.
Not going to make it.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't
think so either.
I don't want to be a pessimist, but I really don't like what I saw in that Oregon game.
Yeah, and Drew Aller's stock continues to drop. I mean, he should have left, obviously, last year. His stock is now dropping. When it comes to getting in the NFL draft and the offense, they're just not putting it together here early on in the season.
If they would have looked a little more consistent, a little better offensively in losing to Oregon, maybe I could be convinced that even with that loss to Oregon, they could find their way back into the playoffs. But, man, I don't know. I mean, I know they came back, and I know they forced overtime. They had the lead, but I don't know. I think if you were watching that game, you had to come away thinking that Oregon was clearly the better team in that game.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, and Penn State now ranks 7th here as they take on UCLA this Saturday. We'll see what happens with the Penn State Nittany Lions. JT, man, show number 1 under the wraps. I'm glad you did your hair and makeup here for the show too. Here today.
What do you think? A little salt.
Yeah, you
salt
did shave.
there in the beard.
Yeah. We got to work on that next show here, buddy.
Is that in the budget? Is there a makeup person in the budget?
There is no budget for Broad Street and beyond.
Well, how am I getting paid?
Doritos. I'm going to pay you by Doritos.
Okay.
I'll bring them next week. JT, this has been fun, man. Show number 2 is coming up. Just Make sure you like, subscribe, and share. That is the main thing here over on YouTube. We're going to try to get some interviews with some local guests. May bring in Derek Fisher down the road, Jared Audrick, maybe some of our local high school coaches as well. Going to bring Noah White in for his high school perspective on some things too. But show number one, Broad Street and beyond. We are glad that everybody could join us here for show number one.